So I'm Suchit Mishra. I'm currently the Chief Information Security Officer at Audi Autonomous Intelligent Driving, based out of Munich, Germany. This organization was put together by the Audi Group just to focus on self-driving cars, level 4 automation. And I joined like about 6 months back there, and since then I've been focusing a lot on how to secure some of our self-driving stack, if you will. That's from the hardware layer all the way to embedded to the software and then the cloud. So it's a very interesting opportunity overall, and I'm very excited to be a part of that mission. Hopefully in the next few years we will have self-driving cars across the world, and it'll be the first people working on some of these cutting-edge technologies. We don't know the future, but it's interesting, definitely. Yeah.
Sure. So Suchit, what are some of your top cybersecurity priorities over the next 24 months or so?
So I think there's like two categories, right? There's one, of course, is the day-to-day tactical things, which is, you have to make sure that your business is resilient to common internet attacks, which would be things like making sure IT systems are securely patched, vulnerability management, and then of course more and more of our workloads are in the cloud, so which means then we need to make sure the cloud infrastructure is also secure from a technical resilience standpoint, right? So those are of course table stakes, so you have to do that. And then the other thing, like I was mentioning earlier, the focus is more on how do we build the most secure self-driving system in this world, because as you can imagine, once it is out there, there will be a lot of people trying to subvert some of the systems, and for either fame, glory, money, whatever that may be, and we have to be prepared. And any one security incident in this space can completely stymie the whole industry, because it's all about trust. If people don't trust that the self-driving cars are safe and secure, they probably won't end up using it, which would be a huge setback to the whole business. Yeah.
Sure. So just a fun question, so indulge us if you will.
Yeah.
So let's say you just met the CEO of your organization in the elevator, and he or she just asked, so Suchit, are we 100% secure? Are you sure, right? So how would you respond to that question?
Yeah, I think it gets asked quite some time, but now I feel nowadays even the CEOs and the boards are much more tuned to the fact that 100% security is a myth, and so the way I position this is, although we cannot guarantee 100% security, here are the top 3 things that I'm working on to help secure our organization, and love to get feedback from you, right? And I just go boom, 1, 2, 3, here's what I'm doing in terms of supporting the core business, and then in supporting the growth for the business. I think you have to align with that in the CEO. Otherwise it'll get lost on him as to why are we doing these activities or these projects, right? So somehow you have to tie it back to that. So as long as that message resonates or ties back to the core business values, I think it helps. Yeah.
Sure. So overall in the industry, there's obviously a lack of qualified security professionals. It's a very complex topic, right? Yeah. So how is your organization building competency, capability, a talent pipeline? Because obviously you are a software stack, right? So how do you think about this problem?
Yes, it's continues to be a challenge. It's been for quite some time, and I think as a industry, we need to look at it from a couple of lenses. I feel so. One is fundamentally, as people graduate from universities, I think there needs to be some work that needs to be done there in terms of hiring or educating our next generation of software engineers or IT professionals about security as part of the core curriculum, right? Just like you would not be a computer scientist today if you did not take a data structures algorithm class.
Sure.
You should not be a software engineer if you have not taken a secure design or secure systems course of some sort. Not only software engineer, but even any engineer for that matter, electrical, because more and more life is becoming embedded, and any engineering discipline that has to do with building hardware embedded software should have a course, right? And one of the things we're trying to do is go back to the universities, collaborate with them, and maybe hire interns in their sophomore years or so on and so forth, and give them exposure to security, right?
Sure.
And it helps create a new pipeline for us in the long term, right? The other things that we do, of course, is trainings. I have less. I've seen less results in that. They're mostly people, maybe 1 out of thousands of engineers who would actually switch and move from development to security.
Sure.
But I think I don't want to get disheartened by that. That I actually have seen that there are other pockets in the organization where you can see like the quality engineering group, or you can see somebody in customer support. Those people are very keen to learn security and apply it to their day-to-day work. And as hiring managers or leaders, I think one of the things I'm trying to do is promote those people to, hey, come work with us for a quarter or 6 months and see how you can add value, right?
Sure.
Because those people are hungry, they're curious, and they want to try new things. So partnering with some of the other departments within the organization has more value to me, right? And I feel that is a better chance of us all improving the overall security IQ within the organization.
Sure. So you're also in a way kind of a very unique company in the sense that can't be slotted in the traditional CISO role, right? It's a software stack. I think security is embedded in the company by design and mindset, unlike, let's say, many traditional companies, right?
Yeah.
So what would you like to see in security vendors who are engaging with you? What you wish they did not do, what you wish they did, so that they can be better aligned to serving the needs of organizations like yourself?
Yeah, I think most vendors, security vendors, they're definitely trying to do good security work, but sometimes I think it's maybe because of the pressure from the VCs or stakeholders or whatever, there's a huge push to sell, right? And so, and in that urge to sell, you try to go over the top and try to create this FUD and use buzzwords like everything is machine learning and everything's automated, which actually does not instill much confidence when I talk to people, because if I have already been in this industry for long, I know how technology evolves, and it is hard for somebody to just do a sales pitch using a lot of buzzwords, and then when we go back to the pilot or when we test it, we know it's just doing a simple regex and there's nothing, no real machine learning happening there, right? And we can easily evade the tool itself. So I would definitely urge people not to go down that path and not push too hard to sell, because the more you try to sell, the more it feels like there may be something goofy there, right?
Sure.
That's one. The other thing I feel is people, especially vendors, need to look at the end-to-end problem in security and try to solve for that, right? By that I mean, if you look at me as my CISO role, I have to go back to the CFO or the board or the CEO and ask for budgets, right? If I were to tell them, okay, I'm buying this SIM solution today, I put that into place, and in a few months later I have to go now buy another SOAR solution because the SIM has a lot of false positives and I need another solution to now fix the problem that was created by the previous security tool. It does not go well for me, right? It's hard for me to defend and make a business case saying, because it is expensive and none of these tools are cheap, right? So that puts us in a difficult position as the ambassadors for the vendors within the organization. Sure. To go sell and get the necessary budget. Sure. To put things into place, right? So that is a problem in the security industry as a whole. I feel most of the security startups can only solve a very small piece of the puzzle, and then there's a lot still left, and that again has to be filled by multiple vendors. Sure. Which in the big scheme of things doesn't work. Sure. Right? And which is why I end up gravitating more towards open source solutions or something that I can manage and I can do, because it's hard for me to imagine that if I'm having difficulty hiring security people at the level that I am and at the organization level that we are in, the startups are even more hard pressed to hire
Sure.
the necessary talent and have the technical rigor
Sure.
to build a scalable product that will work in my environment.
Sure,
Right?
sure.
So I think that those are some of the things
Yeah, that's very appropriate, because you can't spend your time, effort, bandwidth in making sure this jigsaw puzzle works, right? Yeah. All right. So one last question, Suchit, before we wind up. So obviously the CISO's role is an incredibly demanding one, I think, in the entire CXO suite, right?
Yeah.
So how do you unwind? Give us a little glimpse to your weekend. How do you maintain sanity?
That's a good one. So for me personally, music. I play guitar, so I think music is a good escape for me. It lets me to my other creative side, and hopefully I forget the the turmoils that I'm in on my day-to-day basis. So you need to find ways to maintain a healthy work-life balance, or even for me, just going jogging in the park is a really good easy way, and it actually gets me thinking. The more I jog or walk, I get more creative ideas on how I can solve the problem that I'm dealing with. So those are my escape routes, right? The other thing I find very gratifying is advising startups, security startups. So I do that also, and I use some of my weekend times to do that, because I'm thinking about this problem, and I want to see if I can solve it, because it has been almost 2 decades now doing security, and I'm still baffled that we are still dealing with buffer overflows and patch management, and things have improved, but not still improved in many ways, from a very basic standpoint, right?
Yeah.
And here we are talking about all machine learning and AI to solve when we have very elementary problems that are still organizations are battling with, right? And so whatever I can do to help push the needle, either mentoring startups or mentoring professionals or university students who want to break into security, I try to do that. So it's very gratifying to help some of the people.
Yeah. One last question. So if you had to advise startups, and you do that regularly, just you mentioned, and I know it's a tough question because the context is so broad, right? But can you name 3 areas that startups can focus in, which you think are areas where the buying side of the equation is very interested to see new innovation coming in?
Side is more interested. Yeah, I think the trend that I am seeing right now with all the data privacy laws, I don't think that's going to go away.
Okay.
There's going to be serious implications in terms of fines and penalties that you have to pay, especially with GDPR. We've already seen that take effect in Europe and also internationally for companies that have operations in Europe. So anything that can help solve some of those problems and ease the pain for enterprises, because most of the legal teams are not very tech savvy. They end up using very manual processes, paperwork to mitigate or manage the risk. If we can use technology to leverage and minimize the risk, I think that would be a huge value add. And organizations will be willing to pay, because you can easily justify from a business standpoint that if I have a data breach, I have to end up paying 4% of my annual turnover revenues across the whole group companies, right? Which in many cases is a big number.
Sure.
Right, and so people will likely invest in that area. So that's one. The other thing, the second area, as you said, asked for 3, right? So
yeah, if you can just name 3.
Yeah. So the second one I feel is to do with just knowledge sharing between companies that have been impacted by data breach with the others that have probably not experienced it, right? Because reading the media and learning from it is different than actually hearing firsthand from people who have gone through a life-changing experience. It's a crucible experience for that matter.
Sure.
It actually helps inform the others that this is serious and it can have these sort of implications, because unfortunately the media tends to hype things up a lot, and so people find it hard to weed out the signal from the noise there, right? But there is, unfortunately, the legal framework is not there for organizations to safely share information that, hey, here's how this breach happened in my environment, and here's what I did to fix it, and here's what you could do hopefully to avoid the same situation, right? Most of these discussions are happening behind very closed doors, or pretty much left within the same company, which means nobody's benefiting from it.
Sure.
And which means that is why we are seeing more and more breaches happening, because we're just not able to learn or take lessons from somebody else's experiences and apply that to our lives. So I think Facebook had a good threat exchange platform that was put into place. Would expect some more of again, even those, I think it ends up being very few companies collaborating and doing. I think the numbers are increasing, it's promising, but I would like to see more of those forums or platforms coming up where people can benefit from the knowledge.
So help people with privacy, help folks collaborate better from the experience of a breach. What else do you think could be an interesting problem for a startup to look at?
I think there are many problems, even like simple as business email compromise, right? We've seen so many spam and phishing and solutions in the market today, but even then people fall victim to that, right?
Sure.
And I think that's a good example where you could apply a lot of machine learning. And if you look at Google Gmail, they have improved their spam detection and prevention to a great extent.
Correct.
Right? But not everybody's using Gmail. There may be another clients or server, solutions for whatever reasons, and they don't benefit from it. So, but that is almost like the first vector for a compromise, like a phishing email that is sent to an HR or a financial professional, and they unfortunately fall prey to it, and then from there things just go south, right? Sure. So that I'm just giving a simple example, but I think that in itself could be, if people can figure out how to make it. Even Google cannot say they are doing 100% spam detection. It's still like 4 nines right now is the latest number I heard, which means there is still ways to go there, right? And because they cannot know your entire context as a business, right? You know your context more, you can tweak your rules better, and the attackers are getting smarter and smarter. It's easy to just create a Gmail account and then send a thing from the Gmail to a victim, and none of the spam filters will block it because it's coming from a very nice valid domain, right? So those are very simple problems, but they're still thorny because they're not solved fully, or to the extent that this becomes a non-issue.
Sure,
right?
sure.
I feel. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Suchit, thanks a lot for your time.